So, friends are going to backstab you, right? So, what do? The irony is you have to know how to use enemies to your advantage. This is coming from the second law of the 48 laws of power, right? And it says, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. And he says that, first of all, if you don't have enemies, it means you are probably doing something wrong in life, right? Because even the most innocent man, Jesus Christ, had enemies. So he said, so he gave a couple of reasons that I'll say are kind of valid. That one, friends, right? The world is a very, very harsh place. The world is very difficult. And friends make it soft for us. The people that love us, quote unquote, make it very soft, make it a very nice place for us to live in. But what mostly happens, right? A lot of friends, whether lie, they will already tell you the truth. They want to be in your good books all of the time. But guess what? Sometimes, a lot of friends are super jealous, right? Why? Because they feel like two of you are on the same level. And for that reason of you guys being on the same level, they feel like they feel threatened when you have better results than them. So what happens is they mask their envy. In most cases, they mask their envy. And if you ever ask yourself, okay, I had these day ones, if you ever notice, it's only a friend that can backstab you. It's only a friend that can backstab you. So what I think he introduces like a perspective to how you see friends, right? You shouldn't see them as this evil set of people, but then again, you should not see them as you should not see them as people who would always work in your own interests. You should not see them as people who you should get to profit from, because why? Enemies on the other part, right? What it means enemies is enemies, not like when it means enemies in this context. What he says is these enemies are people who you already know where they stand, right? But if you know how to use what is called shared interest, right, to profit from it, then you are better off using your enemies than using your friends. One, two, your friends, and I have a particular line of thought, right, where whenever you have your goal or your dreams and you tell your friends, there's a high chance your friends will laugh at you. Not sometimes to scare you away from your dreams, but also sometimes because they already know who you are. They are familiar with things that you have failed at in the past. So in this particular context, I recommend you use strangers. If you have a goal or a dream and you feel like maybe you're somebody who has messed up a lot in the past, or you have fumbled your friends in the past, you are better off speaking with strangers. Because when you talk to strangers, you are in a better position, right, to negotiate your potential with that stranger instead of talking to your friends about it. See how these two things come together? So speaking of that again, when you get to like hire a friend, right? If you hire a friend, you got to say some things that were hidden, because like I said, friends subconsciously they hide a part of them. Now think about it, you yourself. Have you ever noticed that sometimes when you're speaking with a friend who you know is probably doing something very, very not right, you may sugarcoat some things, right? You may hide them from him, not because you don't know the truth, because to be very frank, the level of truth one is going to handle will always create some form of isolation, right? Even though that's supposed to create a good ally, but no, they rather just people like to delude themselves that okay, they are so perfect. So friends, on the other hand, will want to keep up that image, right? Think about it. How many of your friends do you tell the real truth to? How many of them? The objective truth, not the sugar-coated version. Yeah, not so much. I figured. How many of your friends tell you the objective truth? Let's be honest. We all have friends that do rubbish. So what I'm saying now is that you can have your friends quite alright, but relying on them to get things done in terms of either as in business, either as an objective, anything, so far as a transaction, you're better off using people who are so-called enemies or even strangers. And when you also employ a friend, you kind of reduce the amount of power you currently have. That's also a point, because you believe that this person has your interest in mind. No, that particular person has his own interest in mind. So you're better off in a situation. And also, when you employ a friend or you transact with a friend, right? That is where he has come too close to give you what is called a backstab. One enemy knows where he stands, right? Because the keyword there is a backstab. So an enemy knows that you, who is getting an enemy or a stranger in this context, knows to keep the enemy or stranger right in his front. But now, your friend would always feel free to walk to your back because you already trust a friend. That is the literal idea of backstabbing. Because I allowed you go behind me, right? And to be very, very frank, when it comes to power, right, you may say things like, so what's the point of not having friends if you have power? Well, you can find a proper balance in both. The best of any ideas would always find the nuances in both conflicting ideas. So what that means is, if you have friends, you don't have to include them in your transactions, and you're better off using people who you know where they stand. Now, he also says that every working relationship needs distance. And this makes a lot of sense, right? Because when you get familiar with somebody, take it or leave it, you get to realize that too much familiarity breeds a level of, what's that word? It breeds a level of, should I say, it reduces the person at the other end whenever somebody gets too familiar with you. Like I said, they know your failures, they know your weaknesses. And they can use them against you, not intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, because they know what you can do and what you cannot do. So when you are trying to start a new venture, if you're somebody who has genuinely changed, they will assume you to be a joke until years to come, until you build that business, you start creating the content, you start seeing success. Now, I believe that all relationships and all transactions should be based on mutual self-interest. And to be very, very frank, that reminds me, your friends are most likely friends that you just grew up with. You people don't really, a lot of friends have not really vetted, a lot of people have not vetted their friends. They don't even vetted to see whether this person is of integrity. They've never vetted to see if this person is somebody that they can actually trust. They just hang around. Let's be very honest. How many of your friends did you really vet? Yeah, because I remember this quote that hit me hard, that isolation is the price you have to pay the moment you begin to improve yourself, improve what you do. Think about it. Why? Why is isolation the price for improving yourself? There's a reason for it. And the major reason is that the moment you begin to change, right, friends will want to keep you the same because that is who they know. It validates their process. It makes you predictable. And that's something that is also powerful. The fact that they cannot predict your next move makes it super powerful. So I'll just leave you with this, that it's better for you to know where somebody stands, right, than for you not to know where they stand and think that they are allies, but but behind the scenes, they are envious of you. And it happens every single time. So, a couple of notes here. Know how to use your enemies for your own profits. The wise man profits more from his enemies than from his friends. So yeah, that's the basic idea I have in this book. I feel like it's a book that every person should read. And the idea of having power is not a negative thing. You can have power, right, and do the good, quote unquote, you want to achieve in this world. You should stop looking down on power as something who is something vanity, because if you have power, a lot of things come to you easy. And like I always say, it's better for you to have power over yourself than over other people. That's why I recommend this book. So if you got to this part of this video, it means that you are somebody who takes himself serious. I would recommend that you share this video with somebody else who takes himself serious. That single act of sharing this video would obviously improve. It's making me realize that there are more people out there who are similar minded, and we can all come together and have proper conversations on how we can basically make things better. So thank you very much. Talk to you soon and share this video.